Welcome into the 5-win Broncos Breakdown after a triumphant victory against the Chargers, 31-28. We'll talk about this game for a little bit because it was meaningless, let's be honest. But, hey, Russell Wilson ended the year on a high note. Maybe Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh are looking at that going, maybe it wasn't Wilson. Maybe it was completely Nathaniel Hackett. And this is actually not as bad as a situation as maybe we once thought it was. So let's jump into it. Week 18, Brandon Staley, a big dum-dum. Not quite sure if he thought if we win today, it's like Candyland and we get to go all the way up to the Super Bowl. But he was playing Justin Herbert and the starters for way too long. But the Broncos, and honestly, I'm really just happy for Jerry Rosburg, right? He deserved to get a win because he showed in 2 weeks, and just 2 weeks, how competent of an NFL head coach he was. And it's probably a crime that he never got the opportunity earlier in his career. But shout out for Rosburg for getting a win. Even if it was against Chase Daniel in the fourth quarter, it's still going to go down. Banners fly forever. But Russell Wilson, 13 of 24, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And finally, we used his legs, right? Finally, in the last couple of weeks, Russ was looking a lot more like older Russ. So very positive to see, right? Very encouraging, I think is the word I'm looking for right now, going into the offseason, where you'd rather win going into the offseason, so you feel like you're on a bit of a higher note than coming off a loss where it's already down in the dumps and everyone's got their tail between their legs when they're cleaning out their locker. Now, we'll talk more about this game, but I want to get to the head coaching news because that is the main entree today, right? That is the biggest story right now for the Denver Broncos. And at 3:57 a.m., Ian Rapoport tweeting out, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh is set to interview with the Broncos this week as he continues to flirt, saucy Ian, with a return to the NFL. But Michigan has the chance to make this all go away. Story from Tom Pelissero and me. So he had a link to his article, and we've heard a lot of buzz about Jim Harbaugh going back to the NFL, and from what I heard was he had a conversation with the Panthers, and it doesn't feel like maybe that conversation, and that's all it is, just conversations, right? Right now they're just conversations. It walked away from maybe the two sides seeing eye to eye on, hey, if I'm going to return to the NFL, I want to know what situation I'm getting into, right? Am I going to have player personnel control? Am I going to have a little bit more hands-on in the draft? Or am I just going to sit back and wait for the 53-man roster to be handed to me? So you take that, and then you couple with this yesterday. Adam Schefter tweeting it out, and I did a video walking around the neighborhood during the Chiefs-Raiders game out at the bar for it. The Denver Broncos requested and received permission from the New Orleans Saints to interview Sean Payton for their head coach job. The NFL ruled that any in-person interview with Payton cannot be conducted until at least January 17th. So, a couple quick notes here. You got to trade for Sean Payton, and it looks like the Saints want a first-round pick, and Denver does have the 49ers first-round pick, which I sometimes forget about, but they could make this trade possible. And if you're Sean Payton, you already went on Colin Cowherd a couple months ago saying, if I was the Broncos head coach, here's what I would be doing. Well, now you've got the opportunity to. I think the Broncos are going to go into these interviews with Payton and Harbaugh probably having an idea of who's 1 and who's 2 in their mind. I like Harbaugh more than Payton for 2 reasons. One, Harbaugh, while his career in the NFL was much shorter and did not result in a Super Bowl victory, I think he showed he's probably a better coach. They're very close. They're very close. But the big kind of needle pusher for me is Harbaugh does not cost a first-round pick. And imagine this. Harbaugh, Russell Wilson, with the way he played the last month, plus a first-round pick at the offensive line, that's a team that I think goes into next season with way fewer early primetime games, spotlight not on them, and maybe they start to rattle off some wins. You know what I mean here? So we take this, and let's get back to Sean Payton really quickly, more on Sean Payton, excuse me. So Sean Payton, who I had no idea was on the Fox pregame show, like I learned that today, no clue whatsoever. But he went on there, and they did an interview with him, and he kept his answers pretty aloof, right? He didn't get too very specific on anything. But he did say he already had a conversation with the Broncos owner, which some people are like collusion, like you can't have these premature preliminary talks. Who gives a shit? Like, I don't care. You want to fine the Broncos? Fine. They just paid $400,000 to resod the field that will be used all of one time, which goes to show, by the way, if they're willing to spend $400,000 to fly in Bermuda grass for one game and one game only, you think they're not going to write a blank check for whatever coach they want? Come on. They're not going to settle for the Eagles OC. No, they want their number one guy. So pick a head coach for me. Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton. Put the initials for the coach you'd rather see on the Denver Broncos sideline next year, having the time of his life. Let me know down below. And hey, really quickly, today's show brought to you by BetUS. When you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Broncos125, they're going to give you a 125% deposit bonus. Now, in English, put $100 in, get $125, and you can bet in the postseason. Can't bet in the Broncos, but you can bet in the postseason, baby. Let's get back to the game, though, to sort of round out the show a little bit here. Now, Jeudy, 5 grabs, 154 yards, no touchdowns, but Jeudy definitely showing that this is a player who should have his fifth-year option picked up and exercised this offseason and ending the year on a high note, because that's exactly what you want to see, right? We were talking about potentially trading Jeudy in October and whatnot and making a lot of sense out of it. Now, no, I'm not going to trade Jeudy. Maybe Cortland Sutton, who had a wide-open touchdown today. I do believe George Payton is going to have to move on from some guys this offseason to try and retool a little bit. Now, I hope it's not Jeudy, although Jeudy probably would get you a first-round pick here. Before we talk about Jeudy and more Russell Wilson, I got some pretty interesting Russell Wilson stats for you guys. We are closing in on 11,500 subscribers. And if you're looking for off-season coverage, this is the channel for you. Like, there is no other Broncos YouTube channel out there that's going to get more head coaching news, rumors, buzz, trade rumors, all that stuff this entire offseason. Can we throw up the Russell Wilson stats really quickly, producer Nick? Because I understand it is easy, and I've definitely been a leader of this has been an awful trade, this has blown back on the Broncos horribly, and it still has not been a good trade. There's no doubt. There's no getting around that. But Russell Wilson is going to go into the offseason going, hey, I know this year was objectively a failure, but ever since we kind of moved on from Hackett, I played pretty well. I was responsible for 10 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Those are the types of numbers where Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh go, maybe he's not cooked. Maybe he's actually not as bad as we thought it was. And it was way more on the coaching. It was way more on the decision-making. It was way more on the game plan. You know what I mean? Since Justin Outen took over as offensive coordinator and took over as play caller as the OC, offense did pretty well. They put up 31 points today. Like, that's pop champagne worthy type of stuff right there. I don't think this team is as dead as maybe the average NFL fan thinks it is. That's what I'm going to say. This NFL team will go into the offseason with a lot to work on, but I'm going to look at it in a half-glass full type of way and think, if you get your dream head coach, they get everything out of Russell Wilson and more, you get a first-round pick, use it on an offensive lineman, Jeudy's starting to really look like a wide receiver one. Your defense has never been the problem, right? Your defense is going to come back strong and ready to go next year. You hope Randy Gregory's signing isn't a complete bust. Like, that's asking for a lot of things to happen. But if you get most of those things to happen, and the Broncos, who finished dead last in the AFC West, are going to play the last place team in a handful of other divisions, kind of an easier schedule, who knows? That might be a team where when they're not playing in Monday and Sunday Night Football 4 out of the first 5 weeks into the season, maybe that's a team that starts stacking up wins earlier on with less pressure and less spotlights on them. And then all of a sudden we enter sort of the home stretch of the season going, hey, don't look now, but the Broncos are 8-5, and they're starting to stack wins up. So I appreciate everyone who tuned in to all of our Broncos post-games, watch parties, all the fun we had this year despite all the losing going on the field. It was a blast. I appreciate everyone who tuned in, like I said. And hey, don't go anywhere because we're going to have, if not even more coverage coming your way this offseason, because I'm an offseason junkie. Give me trades, give me free agency, give me draft, right to the veins, baby. So yeah, hit that big red button and subscribe.